Mark Levin, America's mentor of conservatism. Call now at 877-381-3811.
You know, our friends in Alaska, they're aware of this, but the rest of the country may not be. There is a Republican primary going on in Alaska, and there is a rhino running, and then there's a conservative running, and the conservative is Joe Miller, and I want to introduce you to him. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Mark. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the endorsement.
Well, it's my pleasure. Now, I want to get some of your background here. You're a West Point grad, right?
That's correct.
You're a combat vet, Bronze Star. Where did that happen?
That happened in the first Desert Storm, 1991.
Well, thank you for that, your service, my friend. You have a master's in economics, is that correct?
That's right. University of Alaska.
Well, at least somebody knows what they're doing. You are a graduate of Yale Law School.
Right. We put that down at the bottom.
Put that at the bottom. And you were a judge of some kind for a period of time?
I was a U.S. magistrate judge at the time of my appointment, the youngest in the nation. And before that, I was a state magistrate and also an acting district court judge for the state. I did that, all of that, about 6 years, 1998 up to 2004.
And you got through all this, and you're still a conservative constitutionalist, right?
That's right. That's what we're running on, getting the country back to limited constitutional government.
All right, well, this is what I want to talk about. I understand you're a conservative. In other words, you believe in our founding principles. Tell me about your opponent and why you decided to run against her.
Well, you know, it really is an issue of the state of I believe, the country being in crisis. And it's a crisis of leadership. It's this kind of bureaucratic mind think that we've got in D.C. that my opponent partakes in. You know, everybody has their head in the sand. They're basically doing the thing that they've done, you know, for the last 70 years up there, and that's expand the role of government. And my opponent is one of the worst offenders. You noted she, as Rhino Human Events, put her in the top 5. Of course, Arlen Specter has gone his way, so that moves her up to spot 4. And, you know, her voting record has gotten worse since that. I mean, it is across the board leftist. If you look at her voting record in this last session, or the last term, she voted 300 times against the Republican Party with the Democrats, and those were floor votes. You know, she's characterized in the Huffington Post as a center-right Democrat. She is by no means, I think, entitled to wear the label conservative, and I think it's pretty humorous how she's moving that direction in this election. In fact, she's got a commercial out right now that calls herself a conservative, a real conservative who stands up to Obama. Well, she's not, as you know, because one of the things that grabbed my attention with her was when she said, look, we can repeal, but we have to have something to replace this health care with. And I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe so, but just kill this thing. You're not coming at this with the right mentality. And so let me ask you this. Have you been able to raise any money? Well, you know, we've dumped a lot of my own money into it, but we have raised quite a bit of money for an Alaskan race. We started on Lexington Concord Day, April 19th. And including our funds, we've gotten about $20,000 a week, which is good. But, you know, we're up against an opponent that has lots of outside money. In fact, the first quarter of this year, almost 75% of her donations out of state. Very difficult to compete with that. She's already drowning the airways with this baloney about her being a conservative. Fortunately, Alaskans are a lot smarter than that. I think those ads where she touts herself as a conservative are actually turning more people toward me, because they understand that she's not there. I mean, she's left of pretty much any of the Republicans that we've had before now, and that just simply doesn't align with Alaskan values. Well, she's the 4th most liberal Republican, according to Human Events, you said. Now, people can go to joemiller.us. Joe Miller, do I have that right? .us. Right. And there's a big donate button there. We'll take your money. You can donate, and you can learn more about Joe. Let me tell you something, Joe. Not only that, Mark, you can learn about her record, too. You know, don't trust us with it. Just go to the third-party sites that we've linked in. Her record is abysmal. And, you know, from co-sponsoring a cap-and-trade bill in 2007 to saying on March 30th of this year that she doesn't want to repeal Obamacare, she's marching with the best of the Obama supporters. In fact, you know, I don't know whether you heard or not, but a couple of weeks ago she was in the White House. She is on the short list for swing votes on immigration reform. You know, our perspective is that Obama has her on speed dial. She is really in his camp on a number of these issues that conservatives need to be making a stand against.
And you know what, Joe, really upsets me is when they say something to the people back home. Oh, I'm a conservative Republican. Well, back here they're wheeling and dealing and cutting their constituents off at the legs here. We cannot afford that anymore, and I guess that's why you decided to jump in.
That's right, we can't. And, this kind of aristocratical rule that we see in D.C., there's an American Spectator article that talks about this kind of ruling crust that we've now developed in this country. They just ignore what the people want. And, the people are crying out for limited government. That's what this nation was founded on. That's what Americans want. That's what Alaskans want. And yet, she goes along with the crowd. I mean, you look at what happened with TARP. There was a supermajority of us against TARP, and yet she voted for it. You look at the health care thing, a majority of us against Obamacare, and yet she's out there doing these town hall meetings, encouraging people to figure out the role that the federal government needs to have in health care. And we got to reject that. We got to shrink back government. We got to make sure that our rights are preserved. And I believe we got to pull back the country from this brink of insolvency. But re-electing these incumbents is not the way to go. You're just going to get more of the same, and this country really does not have a future if we continue in that direction.
Didn't she get the seat in the Senate that her father used to hold, or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, that's accurate. She was actually appointed by her dad to that seat. Alaskans still resent that. This is really her first legitimate race. We'll see how much of that outrage is demonstrated here August 24th.
Now, folks, you hear this gentleman, Joe Miller. Wouldn't you love to vote for a guy like this? I mean, God knows I would love to vote for a guy like this, but this is a national election. Just because he's running in Alaska, just because Sharon Angle is running in Nevada, Rubio is running in Florida. I'm very impressed with you, Mr. Miller, very, very impressed with you. I've been around the block a few times myself. You're extremely articulate. Your background is absolutely terrific. You're a solid conservative. I see Sarah Palin has also endorsed you, right?
That's right. Yeah, we've had a number of solid endorsements, and certainly your endorsement has helped a great deal. What people need to know about this race in Alaska is that even though we're a huge state geographically, we've got very small population. In other words, the impact of your dollar in this race is extraordinary. 100,000 votes probably is what we're going to have in this Republican primary. We're reaching out there trying to touch each one of them physically, not just by me going door to door, but also by volunteer networks reaching out and communicating with folk. But this is a race where you can really affect it. And we're going to take it. We're doing it by hard work. We've got a volunteer network that rivals Murkowski's. In fact, we probably had 2-to-1 supporters in the volunteer network compared to hers. And these are almost entirely volunteers, not paid. I mean, they're dedicated to the cause of rescuing this country from the brink that it's teetering on right now. And those, of course, your listeners outside of the state can join in and help us as well. This is about the country.
Now, folks, you can learn more about Joe Miller and support him if you want. You can go to joemiller.us, joemiller.us. I have endorsed him. Sarah Palin has endorsed him. You can hear him. He's one of us. He's got Reagan-esque conservative qualities. He's a traditional conservative. And his opponent, who is a sitting senator, is part of the problem. And we have got to take out these sitting senators who are part of the problem right now in these primaries. We may not get another opportunity. So, Joe Miller, I want to wish you all the best. When is the primary?
The primary is August 24th, so we've got a little less than 5 weeks left.
So everybody's got to move into action right now.
And I can tell you, we up here are not stopping. It's a 20-hour-a-day job, 24-hour-a-day job. And we can use all the help we can get. I really appreciate your support and your endorsement and the support of your listeners.
All right, Joe. God bless you. Good luck, man. Now, folks, there's a quality candidate right there. Combat vet with a Bronze Star. Master's in economics. Yale Law School. Graduated from West Point. And he's one of ours. Now, we are heard in Alaska. So our brothers and sisters in Alaska, you got to help us out nationwide here, just as the folks in Nevada and Florida and Pennsylvania and Arizona and Utah and other places need to help out the nation here. The primary is the first battle when you have a primary, okay? You folks have to get ready for August 24th. You can't wait for the first Tuesday in November. You got to go at it twice. So we ask our patriot friends in Alaska to support Joe Miller and make sure you come out and vote And these incumbents have an enormous advantage with all the money from K Street and so forth. I mean, that's what McCain is doing to J.D. in Arizona. And yet when J.D. gets the chance to debate him, J.D. gets the chance to run ads, he puts a dent into McCain. If he had the same amount of money as McCain, he'd be mopping the floor with McCain, in my humble opinion. Joe Miller for U.S. Senate in Alaska. I've endorsed him. Sarah Palin's endorsed him. You heard him. He's very, very good, and we need him. I want to tell you about Angie's List. Angie